Hello, today we are going to be reading From Flower to Honey. Many of you might like honey. I am one that honey is not something that I like, but if you do, maybe you've wondered, where does it come from? Maybe you know from Winnie the Pooh that he reaches into the hole in the tree and bees chase him and so on. So today we're reading From Flower to Honey. June Schwartz, the author, wrote this book for a certain purpose. Think to yourself, we've been talking about author's purpose. Why did June Schwartz write this book? If you thought in your head, yes, it is for informational. You're going to learn how flowers become honey, how it goes from a flower to honey, the process. So it's informational. You're going to learn something. So follow along as I read the book. From flower to honey, we have the table of contents. Well, number 6, page 6. If I go to page 6, I'll find a title called On a Truck. Is a flower on a truck? Is the honey on a truck? Is a bee on a truck? Is a person on a truck? What kind of a truck? Is it a semi-truck? Is it a dump truck? Is it a garbage truck? We don't know much from that title, but it's going to be something about on a truck. Page 12 would have from beehives. Okay, something comes from beehives. If you know a little about honey already, you might know. Okay, the other day, the story you read about chocolate, if you went through the process, in my room we talked about how it went backwards. It goes from the store, and then it went to how it's made, all the way down to where it started from. Instead of starting, okay, so this I have a feeling by seeing at the store, on a truck, by a machine, eating honeycombs from beehives, from flowers, and so on, keeps going all the way, just like it did, started at the end and goes backwards. So tell her thank you.
Thank you.
Honey for breakfast. Jaden loves to eat honey. He puts it on toast, pancakes, and waffles. Jaden thinks honey is wonderful. He feels so sticky and tastes so sweet. But where does Jaden get the honey? Well, of course, you get it from the jar, right? That's where I'd get it out of the cabinet, from a jar. But they're really trying to get you to think more in depth. Where does it really come from? So just like Mrs. Watkins showed the other day, we follow the steps. Honey to what? What's our next thing going to be? At the store. At the store, Jaden and his mom stare at the shelves filled with all kinds of honey. All the honey looks so tasty and that it's hard to choose. But Jaden picks a jar of clover honey and puts it in their basket. But how does honey get to the store? That's the question. There's a jar of clover honey. So again, it goes from steps of honey to the store to where? Honey comes in lots of colors and flavors. Now, our grocery stores don't seem to have this much. This is like an old-fashioned type of store. Or there's sometimes you go to flea markets where they have beekeepers who sell honey, and they would have all these different kinds of honey. So this is like an old country store, not a modern grocery store. That honey doesn't look like that there. Well, here we go on a truck, and I see a small semi-type truck. A truck is filled with boxes and boxes of honey jars. The truck driver is always careful not to drop the boxes. A broken honey jar makes a sticky mess. If I was the honey truck driver, I'd probably drop the box and then I'd step in it and then I'd be stuck and have a sticky mess and stick all over the place. But how does the honey get into the jars? That's one of those things, as a good reader, you stop and think and wonder, well, how do they get in the jars, I wonder? Maybe you know, maybe you don't. So again, a caption over here for the truck. A honey company truck brings the jars to the store. So they load them onto this truck and then take them to the store. And again, it follows the steps like yesterday. By a machine. A machine squirts gooey honey into empty jars. You can hear click, click as jars move along the line. At the end, a worker caps the jars to seal them tight. But where do the workers get the honey? And over here, the jars are going through the assembly line, getting filled with the honey to go on down the line to get the next step. Label, jar lids, something on them. So this machine fills the jar at a honey company. Now, we've talked about how authors organize their stories. Well, this is a nonfiction story because it's telling information, and this author chose to use these questions. So if you don't know these questions, but where do the honey workers get the honey? It's the next page up here, their heading that we've heard about is going to help answer that question. So let's see. But where do the workers get the honey? From honeycombs. Now, not the honeycomb cereal you guys know about. That's crazy. No, not there. But a honeycomb has tiny cups made of beeswax. Each cup is filled with honey. A whirling machine spins the honeycomb around. It's so fast the honey just flies out of the tiny cups. Then workers collect the honey. So this over here is a machine. These are the honeycombs full of the little honey inside of these combs. This machine here spins around so fast. It shows the honey, it separates the honey out of the honeycomb. Now this is a diagram that you talked about yesterday in writing. It's showing and drawing arrows. Honeycombs is the word. Drawn arrows. These are the honeycombs. This shows the spinning. This is where it's going real fast. Get me dizzy. This is the beeswax that comes out of it. Now this is beeswax. We're talking about real wax made from bees. Not when people say, "What are you doing?" Well, it's none of your beeswax. That's not what we're talking about. That's a multiple meaning word. We're talking about the real beeswax here. It's the real deal. A machine spins the honey out of the honeycomb. Only beeswax is left after they spin that out. What's our next thing? But where do the workers get the honeycombs? From beehives. Sure enough, from beehives. Beekeepers, that's the people over here, put their beehives in fields full of flowers. The beehives have special wood frames inside. Honeybees build nice, neat honeycombs inside the frames. So over here are beekeepers. They have these special suits. Think a minute. Why would they wear those silly masks and suits on a hot, sunny day? Well, if you thought about they're working with bees, and bees sting, that's the reason. So here is a natural beehive. I hope you never see or get into one, but they're around. Here is the wood beehives that are built right here. Back here is the beehives. There are these wood boxes. Sometimes I drive through the country, and you go past a field, and you see these stacked boxes. Well, that person is a beekeeper. They keep bees, and they make honey. Bees sometimes make hives in trees. They sure do. They sometimes make them in trees and under porch and on houses, under the eaves of porches and things. Okay, so here's a wood frame that shows the beekeeper made the frame for the bees to get in and make their honey, their beeswax. But how does the honey get into the beehive? Well, from flowers. Wait a minute. Is that telling me that flowers take the honey into the beehive? No, flowers can't move. Flowers can't carry anything. Okay, well, honeybees spend all day collecting sweet nectar. They carry the nectar back to the beehive, but nectar isn't honey. Nectar is a little droplets of liquid and stuff from the flowers. Surprise, honeybees can turn nectar into thick, sticky honey. But why do bees make honey? I really couldn't tell you why they do that. This is a bee yard. Look at all these beehive boxes around flowers of clover. All of this is labeling with our diagram and our picture. This is a honeybee. Bees use nectar from clover flowers to make clover honey. So that's where they get clover honey, from flowers called a clover. So the bees get the nectar. But why do bees make honey? For honeybees. Food is food. honey is food for all the bees in the hive. They eat that honey. So do some of you. Bees make a lot of honey. So there is some for the bees and some for us. Yum. That boy says yum. Some of you might say yum. I say yuck. I don't like sticky honey stuff. I don't like it. There he is enjoying his honey. Okay. So this is from flowers. It starts out as flowers, and the bees collect the nectar to make the honey in the honeycomb. And again, the organization of this book by this author, she starts at the beginning and goes backwards. Most nonfiction would start here. Where does it start? And then go all the way up. I hope I'm not giving anybody a headache by moving too fast. I just can't figure out those fancy pink circles that the other people do with this. I don't know about that. I don't know how to do that. Somebody will have to teach me sometime. But that's our story for today. Have a great day, and I'll see you later. Oh, the author's note I forgot to read. The author's note, working in a bee yard is very exciting and also very peaceful. I'm not sure about that. I don't like to be stung by bees. When you work with bees, time seems to stop. You can smell wonderful flowers, breathe fresh air, and hear bees buzzing as they work to make honey from the sweet nectar. This book is dedicated to Steve Zimmerman, who taught me all about bees and honey. So this is a dedication on this. June Swartz is dedicating this to Steve Zimmerman because he taught her about bees. That's how she learned about bees, from him. So she wrote this book that she knew about bees. In nonfiction writing, you should write about what you know about. She knows about bees from her friend Steve, and then he must have, I don't know if he's still alive or passed away, but she wrote this with his honoring him, to a dedication to him. It's called a dedication in a book. A dedication to him for helping her. I don't think I would like to work on a honeybee farm or be a beekeeper. I don't like to be stung by bees. The only thing I like about bees is it's hot in summertime. That's what I like about bees. Well, on the back page, to try to get you to read this, says honey in your cupboard. Some food goes through many steps before we see it at the store. Find out how honey gets to us from a flower to a shelf in a store. And we already read that. Usually when you read a book, you look at the cover and you read that before you read, but we did it backwards. Well, have a great day. Now I am done. See you later, alligator.